The troubles in Ireland began in the late 1960s. From 1919 to 1921, Ireland fought a war of independence, successfully splitting from Great Britain and creating the Irish Free State and Northern Ireland, also known as Ulster. The Irish Free State was mostly Catholic, while Northern Ireland was mostly Protestant and under control of Great Britain. This created turmoil among Catholics and Protestants. Catholics were referred to as nationalists and Protestants loyalists. Catholic communities in the cities of Belfast and Derry were met with discrimination by the Protestant-controlled government. Catholic nationalists in Northern Ireland protested in Derry, inspired by the protests in America about segregation and Jim Crow. The Catholic protesters wanted to bring attention to discriminatory housing policies and segregation among religious lines. The Northern Irish government banned the protests, but it was ignored by the Catholics, and they gathered on the 5th of October. The Royal Ulster Constabulary, or RUC for short, charged the protesters and beat them. This moment would cause even more anger between Catholics and Protestants. The civil unrest that had been happening since 1968 had turned into rioting in 1969. The worst of the rioting happened in August of 1969 following the Apprentice Boys' March in Derry, where there was rioting for 3 days, and at that point the Northern Irish government called the British for help. Internment means to arrest someone suspected of being involved in paramilitary activities without trial. Internment was introduced in 1971 and ended in 1975. There were a total of 1,981 people arrested during this time. 1,874 were Catholic and only 107 were Protestant. The Northern Irish convinced the British that internment was a great way to end any paramilitary activity and violence. This was actually a very bad idea because the internment policy was directed at the Irish Republican Army, also known as the IRA, and Catholics. There were no Protestants arrested until 1973, even when loyalist paramilitaries were responsible for some of the violence before 1973. Many of the suspected militants had to be released because they weren't associated with any paramilitary groups. Internment only caused more support for the IRA. Civil unrest and IRA violence began to surge. Bloody Sunday took place in Derry on January 30th, 1972. A march organized by the Northern Ireland Civil Rights Association formed to protest against internment without trial. 10 to 20,000 men, women, and children took part in the protest. Soldiers of the British Army blocked the protesters from entering the city center. In response to that, the protesters in the main body of the protest moved to Free Derry Corner to rally. Some men began throwing rocks at the soldiers of the elite British parachute regiment that were on an arresting operation. 30 minutes, the soldiers fired on the crowd, killing 13 and injuring 13 others.
Around at midnight, sing, oh, something's telling me, boy, you're avoiding me. And when I find you, you will go for your tea. Oh, I've got a brand new shiny helmet and a pair of kinky boots. I've got a lovely new flak jacket and a lovely khaki suit. And when we go on night patrol, we hold each other's hands. We are the British Army and we're here to take your land. My good friend Bertie, he's in the UDR. Searching for weapons, he will go near and far. Up around by Kappa, you'd never find him there. Oh, the only gun he'd get there is an Armalite in his ear. Oh, I've got a brand new shiny helmet and a pair of kinky boots. I've got a lovely new flak jacket and a lovely khaki suit. And when we go on night patrol,
the organisers of this Civil Rights March promised that they would be non-violent. The army have said throughout the day that they hope to use minimum force, but 3 hours after the procession began, this has ended up, as dusk comes onto the bogside, as the worst ever confrontation between the army and the Catholic people of the Craigan and Bont. Father, how many dead have you seen in the bogside?
Appearing to be dead, there are the 3 in that Saracen car. There are 2 men lying at the end of this block of flats. There's another man at least very close to being dead. There are 2 others up there. I'm told that there are some more in these flats here that I haven't seen yet. I would say there are probably about 4 dead at this moment. I don't know what those are doing, whether they're alive or dead, but they seem to be very dead, and they're thrown in as if they were dead meat.
my good friend Nigel, he's in the SAS. He said a change is just as good as the rest.
How do you feel about today's operation in the bogside?
Well, I think any of these sort of operations are unfortunate. We shouldn't have to do it, but they put us in a position where we can do no other. When we're fired at, we must protect ourselves.
Bloody Sunday caused shock at an international level and caused even more support for the IRA and Republicanism. On July 21st, 1972, the IRA planted and exploded 22 bombs in 75 minutes, which killed 9 people and injured 130 others. Along with the bombs, there were multiple bomb threats that added more chaos in the streets. This point marked the day the British ended the no-go areas in the cities of Belfast and Derry. The Anglo-Irish Agreement on November 15, 1985 was signed by the United Kingdom, Northern Ireland, and the Republic of Ireland. This was the most important moment in Anglo-Irish relations since the 1920s. The agreement basically meant that both governments won't change without the say of the people. It also had unionist leaders in Northern Ireland to accept a devolved power-sharing arrangement. The British still owned Northern Ireland, and the agreement caused unionists in Northern Ireland to oppose it, while Republicans were mad because their demands for British withdrawal and a united Ireland were not met. On April 10, 1998, the Good Friday Agreement was endorsed by the people of Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, but there were delays of implementing the agreement due to unionists refusing to establish institutions of devolved government unless there was a movement to decommission paramilitary weapons. Unionists were persuaded to enter an executive with Sinn Féin. Sinn Féin is an Irish Republican nationalist political party. On December 2nd, 1999, at the beginning of February 2000, unionists were unhappy because of the lack of progress on decommissioning and resigned from the executive. On February 3rd, 2000, the British announced that they would end the executive and institutions of government in Northern Ireland to reintroduce direct rule. The institutions of the devolved government was suspended by the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland. Surprisingly, the institutions were reinstated and suspended 4 times until October 14, 2002, when it was suspended permanently. In these times of suspension, many attempts were made to make peace between the political parties. In the process, the IRA entered discussions with the Independent International Commission of Decommissioning and began decommissioning their weapons on October 23, 2001. The IICD reported that the IRA had all their weapons taken on September 26, 2005. Despite the IRA being unarmed, the Unionists didn't trust them and didn't enter a power-sharing executive, and in 2006 the devolved institutions stayed suspended and Northern Ireland was ruled by appointed ministers.